After 60, many people start to vanish, not because they die, but because they stop truly living. They slowly become a faded ghost in their own life. No purpose, no presence, no freedom. They call it retirement. I call it silent spiritual suicide. But the most terrifying thing isn't death. It's living 20 more years in meaninglessness, in dependence, in regret. If you don't want to become a weak old man, forgotten, medicated, ruled by fear, then you need to rebuild the foundation of your life, starting now. In this video, I'm going to show you 10 essential pillars to take control of your life after 60. And no, it is not too late for any of them. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and like if you're new here. It helps me keep bringing you more valuable content. After 60, pain doesn't knock, it kicks the damn door in. Loved ones leave, your body betrays you, friends scatter, society no longer needs you like it once did. The identity you once stood on begins to crack. But this isn't the time to complain. This is the moment to decide, will you break or will you harden into steel? Emotional resilience isn't something you pray for, it's something you train. And if you haven't started yet, you're already behind. But it's never too late. Epictetus, a slave who became a philosopher, said, "It's not events that hurt you, but how you perceive them." That's not just philosophy, that's survival. Because there will be days of loss, pain, and despair. And if you don't know how to manage your mind, those days will swallow the rest of your life. Stoicism teaches two types of control, what you can control and what you can't. You can't stop aging, you can't hold on to everyone you love, but you can absolutely control how you face it. Here's the hard truth. No one is coming to save you. Not your therapist, not your kids, not blind faith. It's just you and your inner will. The Stoics practiced a daily technique called negative visualization. They imagined the worst-case scenario, so when it came, it didn't break them. Imagine losing someone you love. Imagine your life savings disappearing. Imagine waking up tomorrow with nothing but yourself. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you untouchable, because fear loses its grip once you've faced it. Emotional resilience isn't about chasing comfort. It's about standing up, cold, clear, and ready, in the rubble. When others look for reasons to fall, you look for a way to rise. No one lives for you. No one suffers for you. And no one can be strong for you. Either you master your emotions, or they own you until the day you die. When you're young, you can get away with abusing your body. Eat whatever, stay up all night, work yourself into the ground, then crash. But after 60, a bitter truth hits you. Without health, nothing else matters. No philosophy, no money, no relationship can save a man whose own body has turned against him. The Stoics didn't worship the body. They didn't treat it like a temple the way fitness fanatics do. But they understood one thing clearly. The body is the vehicle for virtue. It's how you live a life of discipline, purpose, and depth. It's a tool. And tools need maintenance. Not for pleasure, but out of duty. Epictetus said, "It's not the load that breaks you, but how you carry it." A hunched back, weak legs, and a tired heart aren't destiny, they're the cost of an undisciplined life. Health doesn't just happen. It's built. Every time you turn down that pastry, every step you take outside the house, every hour you choose sleep over scrolling on your phone. You don't need six-pack abs. You need a body that'll carry you through the rest of your life without making you a burden. You need clarity in the morning. You need a steady heartbeat to face hardship, not to panic from a surprise heart attack. You need the strength to lift your grandchild, to walk through the park, to not feel useless when others have to take care of you. And if you think it's too late to change, ask yourself why you want to live longer in the first place. Not just to exist, but to live with meaning. A man who loses his health doesn't just lose his freedom, he loses his presence. Don't let old age be your excuse. Make it your reason to get more disciplined, more selective, more strategic. A noble spirit can't grow in a decaying shell. You want to be strong? Start with the body you've got. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it damn well better be reliable. No one makes you lose your mind. No one forces you to feel sad. No one can hurt you, unless you let them. Harsh as it sounds, it's the truth. Your emotions are your responsibility, not your ex's, not your kids, not society's, and definitely not your age's. Psychological self-mastery means not letting your mood swing depending on how others treat you. When someone insults you, you don't have to explode. When your kid forgets to call for a week, you don't need to scream abandonment. When the world turns its back, you don't have to cry about it. Because you understand this. Your peace belongs to no one but you. After 60, many fall into a dangerous trap, waiting for someone else to make them feel worthy. They live passively, hoping to be noticed, hoping to be heard, hoping someone will confirm they still matter. That's the fastest road to bitterness, disappointment, and depression. Because no one can fill the void you refuse to fill yourself. The Stoics saw solitude not as the enemy, but as the perfect ground for forging strength. When you can sit alone with yourself and not feel empty, you've stepped into real freedom. Solitude doesn't make you weak, it exposes the weakness already in you. And if you're brave enough to face it, you won't need anyone else to make you happy again. One of Stoicism's most powerful tools is writing. Not to record the past, but to wrestle with your own mind. Every day, write down what threw you off. Ask yourself, why did I react that way? Could I have done better? Your mind is like a wild animal. If you don't train it, it will drag you into the dark. And a blank page is the whip you use to tame it. Psychological self-mastery doesn't come from suppressing emotion. It comes from owning it. Not because you've gone cold, but because you're no longer a prisoner of every fleeting feeling. A self-mastered man is one that anger can't drag down, compliments can't inflate, and fear can't chain. Many people after 60 live like they're just waiting to die. They won't say it out loud, but their actions scream it. Days drift by quietly, with no goals, no drive, no discipline. A lazy existence disguised as rest. And then they sit there, watching life slip away, wondering why they feel so empty. The truth is, you don't need to be a CEO, run a marathon, or climb Everest to have a purpose, but you damn sure need a reason to get out of bed in the morning. Something that pushes you forward, whether it's learning something new, helping others, leaving a legacy, or simply becoming a better version of who you were yesterday. Stoicism doesn't preach, sit still and detach from everything. It says, live through action. Seneca didn't write philosophy to admire it. He wrote to live, to lead, to prepare for death with his head held high. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor, wrote his philosophical journal in the middle of war. Why? Because they understood this. Life isn't about surviving, it's about showing up. Purpose doesn't have to be grand, but it has to be clear. You could be an old man teaching your grandkid how to grow a tree, or a woman collecting trash to keep the neighborhood clean. It's not about the size of the task. It's about knowing what you're doing for the world and why it matters. When you know your why, you can endure any how. Stop asking, have I lived enough? Start asking, what more can I give? Purpose doesn't end when you retire. It just changes form. You used to contribute muscle, now you contribute wisdom, experience, and the example of a life lived with principle. Old age isn't a sentence, it's a chance to live deeper than youth ever allowed. No one hands you purpose. You choose it, and you do. Every step you take, no matter how slow, has weight, has direction. An old person without purpose is just a breathing ghost. Don't let that become you. If this video made you think, hit like now, comment below. How have you applied Stoicism in your life? Stoic success, unbreakable mindset, total control. Nothing makes a man feel more useless than having to ask for money, even from his own kids. Nothing eats away at pride faster than being afraid to see a doctor because it's too expensive, afraid to go out because you might not afford it, afraid to be yourself because you might become a burden. Financial security isn't about having loads of cash. It's about being stable, being sufficient, and not panicking every time life throws a curveball. Stoicism never taught hoarding wealth to show off. It taught saving so you could be free. And in today's world, freedom and finances are inseparable. Seneca, one of the wealthiest Stoic philosophers, wrote, "A rich man is not one who has much, but one who needs little." That was a direct punch in the face to consumer culture and the endless craving that has ruined countless lives. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep, and whether you're spending it on things that truly matter or just numbing yourself emotionally. Old age isn't the time for stupid indulgence, no matter what the ads tell you. It's when you tighten your spending, invest in what keeps you healthy, deep, and grounded. A trip where you learn something beats a dozen luxury items that leave you feeling hollow 5 minutes later. You don't need a complicated financial plan, but you need a plan. You need to know what it takes to live independently. You need to kill the habit of spending out of impulse. And above all, you need to understand this. Money is a tool, not a goal. It doesn't define your worth, but it does shape the quality of your remaining years. If you don't master your money, you'll live in fear. If you do, you'll have freedom. And freedom is the only thing that makes growing old worth it. Old age doesn't kill you. Loneliness does. You can live to 90, but if the last 20 years are spent in front of a TV eating meals alone, that's not living. That's waiting to die with a cold heart. A Stoic man doesn't run from people. He doesn't hide in caves. He lives among others, but doesn't let the chaos of the world corrupt his mind. He chooses his relationships, not out of ego, but to stay clear-headed in a noisy world. Some say, I don't need anyone. That's a lie dressed up in pride. Everyone needs someone. The real question is quality, not quantity. You don't need a crew to drink with on weekends. You need a few who'll call you out when you lose your way. You don't need the whole neighborhood to know your name. You need one person who will knock on your door when you're sick and no one notices. Many people after 60 feel lost without a role, without work, without the daily buzz of being needed. But instead of letting that break you, treat it as a chance. This is your moment to rebuild your circle, this time with intention. Find a community you believe in. Learn, share, contribute. It might be a book club, a workout group, a volunteer circle, or just a couple of chess buddies. Whatever it is, don't cut yourself off from life. You can live alone, but you shouldn't live in isolation. We're wired for connection. A man who knows who he is and what he wants also knows who he needs. Not to depend on, but to grow stronger with. Old age doesn't require a crowd, just the right few. A handful of deep, real, kind relationships is enough to anchor you through the rest of your life. You're gonna die, sooner or later. No sugarcoating it, no dancing around it. That's reality, and the more you deny it, the shallower your life becomes. The Stoics lived with death in plain sight, not to fear it, but to stay sharp. Because once you truly grasp that your time is limited, only then do you start living like every day counts. Legacy isn't about your bank account. It's not the land you leave your kids. Those things can be spent, divided, forgotten. Real legacy is the mark you leave on others' minds. It's the example you live that people still talk about when you're gone. It's the words you once said, the actions you once took, the way you once carried yourself. So much so that someone stops and asks, am I living the way he did? Memento mori, remember that you will die. Not to become grim, but to become bold. You can savor each moment and still leave something deeper than a cheap laugh. You can live simply and still live with impact. The Stoics didn't chase fame, but they lived in a way that made fame chase them. If today were your last day, would you be proud of how you've lived? Can you look back at your 60 or 70 years without regret? Not because you were flawless, but because you had the guts to fix what you broke. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. Legacy is built day by day, in how you treat others, how you keep your word, how you hold on to your character when life gets ugly. You don't need to write books, give speeches, or start foundations. You just need to live right and leave behind a clear imprint that says, I was here, and I lived like a man worth remembering. No one escapes death, but you can escape being forgotten, not by what you say, but by how you live. Rigidity kills more people than age ever will. Some don't grow old because their bodies fail. They grow old because their minds shut down long ago. They cling to back in my day, rejecting change, ignoring updates, refusing anything unfamiliar. and they slowly vanish, not physically, but mentally. A man who's lost his ability to adapt is just a walking corpse, stuck in the past, terrified of the present, blind to the future. The world won't wait for you to catch up. It moves with or without you. The Stoics never clung to the past. They lived fully in the present, open to change without ever betraying their core. Flexibility doesn't mean being spineless. It means being strong enough not to break and soft enough not to shatter. After 60, adaptability becomes survival. You may not master every new tech, but you can learn. You may not move at society's pace, but you can find your own rhythm without bitterness. You can try new things, learn a new skill, read a genre you never touched, start a journey you never dared to take. Many people die slowly inside their old habits. They repeat behaviors that no longer serve them, just because that's how I've always done it. But life doesn't care. Life demands evolution, and if you refuse, it leaves you behind. Flexibility is a form of humility. It says, I don't know everything, I'm willing to learn. That's mental strength not everyone has. Young people resist change out of ignorance. Old people resist it out of pride. But only the truly wise are brave enough to change when they know they're wrong, no matter their age. Death isn't as scary as living a life stuck on repeat, rigid, stale, a shadow of who you were. If you're still breathing, you still have a shot to reinvent yourself. Start now. One small shift, one bold step, one decision to stay flexible. That's how you stay alive, not just existing. Don't let the aging of your body drag your mind down with it. Don't buy into the excuse, I'm too old to learn, because the moment you stop learning, that's when you truly start aging. Wisdom doesn't come with age. It comes to those who actively chase it. Some people at 30 already think like old men because they've stopped updating their view of the world. And some people at 70 remain sharp, curious, and questioning because they never stopped learning. That's the difference. Not age, but your attitude toward knowledge. The Stoics didn't seek knowledge to impress. They sought it to live better. They read, reflected, questioned, wrote, challenged themselves, not to become philosophers, but to become rational men of action. They didn't chase endless information. They curated meaningful insight. They weren't afraid of being challenged, because that's how they sharpened their thinking. After 60, every day is either a step toward mental clarity or a slide into mental decay. Read a single page, learn a word in a new language, write down what you've understood about life today. Ask yourself, what did I learn? Where could I have done better? Ask that daily and your mind stays sharp. Many people rot inside stale thoughts, repeating beliefs, prejudices, and patterns, not because they're right, but because they're familiar. True wisdom demands courage. The courage to admit you don't know, to correct what you once believed, to keep updating who you are. And that courage has no age limit. The older you get, the sharper you need to be. No one wants to live long just to end up confused, manipulated, or misled by lies. You need enough wisdom to filter what's worth hearing, enough calm to pause before reacting, and enough humility to learn from someone younger than you. Wisdom is a fire. You either feed it with knowledge or let it die out in self-satisfaction. The choice is yours, just like everything else. You don't need more inspiration. You don't need more advice. You don't need another motivational video. What you need is discipline, the only thing that turns knowledge into results, ideas into action, and an average man into a man worth respecting. After 60, discipline isn't optional. It's mandatory if you want to live the rest of your life with intention. Your body's no longer as strong? Then discipline matters even more to keep training consistently. Your mind's not as sharp as before? Discipline is what keeps you reading, writing, thinking. Your mood swings easily? Discipline is how you keep yourself from being dragged into emotional nonsense. The Stoics didn't wait for inspiration to act. They acted, and inspiration followed. They didn't live by feelings. They lived by principles. They built habits like fortresses to guard their reason against weakness. And every day, they strengthen those walls with small, consistent actions. You want to control your life? Start by controlling your morning. Don't touch your phone before you open your mind. Don't read the news before you read yourself. Wake up 30 minutes earlier. Walk, drink water, write a few lines about what you're thinking. Sounds simple, but doing it every day? That's real power. Habits are the foundation of freedom. A man without good habits lives by impulse, which means he lives by laziness, fear, and reactivity. A man with good habits, he doesn't need motivation every morning. He just gets up and does the work, because that's who he is. If you think it's too late to build discipline, you're lying to yourself. There is no age where quitting becomes acceptable. Only people who've declared defeat in their own mind. And if you're still breathing, you still have a chance to reset your life. One action, one habit, one morning at a time. No one lives for you. No one takes responsibility for you. Discipline is proof that you respect yourself, that you choose your way of living, and that you follow it through. No one can walk this path for you. Not your kids, not your partner, not your doctor, not even God. After 60, either you take ownership of your life or you hand it over to the slow decay of time. You now have the 10 pillars: mental strength, physical health, financial stability, wisdom, connection. They're all here, but they mean nothing if you read them and do nothing. The world doesn't care who you used to be. It only cares who you are today and how you'll live tomorrow. You can keep complaining, or you can start rebuilding, one brick at a time. You can choose to give up, or you can choose to become someone even you have to respect. Stop waiting for the perfect day to start. That day doesn't exist. Start now, step by step, action by action, decision by decision. Don't let life make the call for you. Live like this is your last shot, because it just might be. Thank you for being here. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, turn on notifications, and like this video. Don't forget to leave a comment so we can spread positivity together.